In a swift and uncompromising response that has sent tremors through the global financial system, Beijing today harshly rejected the American threat of a 100% tariff on all Chinese imports. The Chinese Ministry of Commerce, in a specially convened press conference, denounced the proposal from the Trump administration as an act of naked economic blackmail and a flagrant violation of all established international trade laws. The government in Beijing vowed to take all necessary countermeasures to protect its sovereignty, its economic interests, and the legitimate rights of its businesses, signaling the formal start of a potential catastrophic trade war between the world's two largest economies. The announcement immediately roiled international markets, with equity index from Tokyo to Frankfurt sliding sharply as investors brace for a new era of profound economic conflict and supply chain disintegration. The confrontation was ignited by a bold declaration from the White House in a move characteristic of his America First agenda. President Donald Trump stated that he had instructed United States Trade Representative Jameson Greer and Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick to prepare a comprehensive plan for imposing a 100% tariff on the full spectrum of Chinese goods entering the United States. The administration's justification for this unprecedented measure was multifaceted. Officials cited China's persistent unfair trade practice, including intellectual property theft and forced technology transfer, which they argue have hollowed out American manufacturing for decades. They also linked the economic pressure to national security, pointing to China's rapid military expansion and its continued robust economic partnership with Russia, which Swanson sees as enabling Moscow's ongoing war effort. Secretary Lutnick argued that the time for incremental measure had passed and that only a decisive economic shock could force Beijing to alter its course. He framed it not as a punishment, but a necessary rebalancing of a trade relationship that had become dangerously lopsided. Beijing's reaction was one of carefully orchestrated fury. A spokesperson for the foreign ministry stood before a room packed with international journalists and delivered a blistering critique of the American policy. He accused Washington of indulging in unilateral protectionism that would ultimately harm American consumers and businesses more than it would harm China. He stated that China had no desire for a trade war, but was not afraid of one, and would fight to the very end if necessary. He added that the United States was attempting to use its economic might to stifle China's peaceful development and technological advancement, a goal he claimed was doomed to fail. The spokesperson declared that the era of China accepting unequal treaties or being subjected to foreign pressure was over, and that any attempt to contain China's rise would be met with a firm and powerful response. The message was clear. China would not back down and was preparing to absorb the blow while delivering a painful one of its own. The substance of China retaliation was laid out in a detailed document released by its Ministry of Commerce. The plan is a textbook example of asymmetric economic warfare designed to inflict maximum political and economic pain on the United States. First, China announced it would immediately impose its own retaliatory tariff on a carefully selected list of American products. Topping the list were agricultural goods, most notably soybeans, pork, and corn, which are major exports from politically important states in the American Midwest that form a key part of President Trump's political base. The goal is to directly target the livelihoods of American farmers and create political pressure on the administration from within its own heartland. The list also included American-made automobiles, civilian aircraft from major manufacturers, and a range of high-technology components, striking at the core of America's industrial export economy. Beyond simple tariffs, Beijing signaled its intent to use a range of non-tariff barriers to disrupt American businesses operating in China. These measures are often more damaging than tariffs because they are less transparent and harder to challenge. Chinese authorities could, for example, initiate sudden and exhaustive regulatory reviews of American companies, leading to and definite operational delays that could slow down customs clearance for American goods at Chinese port, citing new safety or environmental inspection requirements. One immediate example surfaced when a major American pharmaceutical company reported that a large shipment of its medical device worth tens of millions of dollars had been unexpectedly held at the port of Shanghai for what officials called a comprehensive quality control audit. This creates enormous uncertainty and financial loss for American firms that have come to rely on the vast Chinese market. Furthermore, Beijing announced it was expanding its unreliable entity list. This is a powerful tool that allows the government to place foreign companies on a blacklist, which can severely restrict or even prohibit their operations in China. The government hinted that several iconic American consumers and technology brands, which have invested billions to build their presence in China, were now being considered for inclusion on this list. This represents a direct threat to the global revenue streams of some of America's most successful corporations. The mere possibility of being blacklisted could force these companies to lobby the US government to reverse its tariff policy, effectively turning parts of corporate America into a political fifth column against the administration's trade agenda. Perhaps the most potent weapon in China's arsenal is its near total dominance of the global supply of rare earth mineral. These 17 elements are indispensable for the manufacturing of a vast array of modern technology, including smartphones, electric vehicles, wind turbines, and advanced military hardware such as missile guidance systems and fighter jets. The Chinese Ministry of Commerce announced it would be launching a national security review of its export policies for these critical materials. While stopping short of an immediate export ban, the message was an unambiguous threat to the American defense and technology sectors. Cutting off the supply of rare earth would create a crisis for the Pentagon and for Silicon Valley, as finding and developing alternative sources would take years and cost billions of dollars. This move is designed to demonstrate that economic interdependence runs both ways and that China holds powerful leverage of its own. The financial markets reacted to the escalating threats with predictable panic. The announcement of China's comprehensive retaliation plan triggered a massive sell-off in global equities. Investors are deeply concerned that a full-blown trade war will shatter fragile global supply chains, drive up consumers' price, and push the world economy, already weakened by the conflict in Europe, into a deep and prolonged recession. The specter of a complete economic decoupling between the United States and China, a process once considered unthinkable, now appears to be a real possibility. Multinational corporations are caught in an impossible position. A company that designs its product in America, sources components from China, and sells to a global market now face a logistical and financial nightmare. The very model of globalized production that has defined the world economy for 30 years is now under direct threat. Back in Washington, the Trump administration appeared unfazed by China's defiant posture. President Trump posted a message on social media stating that China's aggressive reaction was proof that his policy was working. He claimed that Beijing was scared and that its leader knew they could no longer get away with what he called the theft of American prosperity. He vowed to stand firm and see the policy through, promising that it would ultimately lead to a renaissance in American manufacturing and the return of millions of jobs. Secretary of State Marco Rubio adopted a more measured but equally firm tone in his public statement. He expressed regret that China had chosen a path of confrontation rather than negotiation, but insisted that the United States would not be deterred. He argued that rebalancing the economic relationship with China was a matter of long-term national security and that some short-term economic pain was an acceptable price to pay to correct decades of strategic drift. He stressed that the administration goal was not to harm the Chinese people, but to compel the Chinese government to abide by the same rules of free and fair trade that other nations follow. Meanwhile, Secretary of the Treasury Scott Bessent was tasked with the difficult job of calming nervous financial markets. He issued a statement emphasizing the fundamental strength and resilience of the U.S. economy. He downplayed the potential impact of China's threat, including the much-discussed possibility that Beijing might sell off its massive holdings of U.S. Treasury bonds. Bessent argued that such a move would be self-destructive for China, as it would devalue its own reserve, and that there were more than enough global demands for US debt to absorb any sales from Beijing. His reassurance, however, did little to quell the growing anxiety among investors who see a protracted and damaging economic conflict as all but inevitable. The clash between the two economic titans has created a new and dangerous front in a world already beset by geopolitical instability. The European Union, reeling from its own self-inflicted economic wounds from the sanctions on Russia, now finds itself trapped between its American security partner and its Chinese trading partner, deepening its sense of isolation and economic peril. The global economic order is being reshaped in real time, with the principles of free trade and globalization giving way to a new reality of great power, competition, and strategic economic fragmentation. Many of my listeners, like 70%, haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel. And so many of you don't even know that you haven't subscribed. And that is actually what makes the show going. It's almost like you're making a donation to the show. So that's why I ask again and again, because it enables us to grow and grow and grow. And we're going for the long haul here. And listen, if this is your first time listening to Stockholm Rich, you don't have to subscribe. You guys, you're first ones on me. But if you have watched this show before, it's like you are a freeloader now. So all I would ask you is, if you have seen this show before and you like it, help me, help my team here. Hit that subscribe and like button now, and we will continue to build this show for you. That I swear. Thank you to all of you guys who have subscribed. It means a lot to me. Thank you so much. That's all for me for today. I will see you soon. Bye for now.